Good evening, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know, and I want to talk about vigilante justice. I haven't actually covered this in my videos before or yet, but I want to talk about it now because I'm seeing signs that vigilante justice might be returning in small areas and small ways, probably due to people feeling fed up with the court system, and that I can definitely understand. But I want to talk about why vigilante justice, that is, mob justice or taking the law into your own hands, is a very bad way to go. It's a bad decision because, for one, you open yourself up to the same kind of justice. All right, so hear me out. What I'm saying is due process, and I mentioned this in so many of my videos, due process cannot be overstated as far as how important it is to justice. Due process, that is actually checking your facts, not just, following a rumor or a suspicion, but doing an investigation, substantiating claims, and presuming innocence. Okay, this is huge, which means most of the time that an individual, a peer that is a neighbor or a community member, is probably not qualified, even if they're in a mob or a group, to do all that stuff without some kind of, badge or license, some special privileges, some, official authority. And this has been the historical role of authority in principle, the ideology of having some kind of centralized authority that is above and superior to, in terms of, force and access to the general public. The purpose has been to enable them to pursue investigation, apprehending criminals as needed, in the hopes that it makes things better, not worse. Not to open opportunities for abuse. Unfortunately, it requires authorities who are, insulated to the temptation of taking bribes and becoming corrupt. It's a big conversation. It's outside the scope of this video, but I want to talk specifically about mob justice and vigilante justice. For example, now, consider the possibility that a person in a community is identified as having committed some kind of crime or sin that is unsavory to the community at large. It's unsupportable, it's unhealthy, and maybe they disrespected somebody or damaged somebody. Maybe it's somebody in their home or outside their home, and a person or group of people decide they're going to get even with this person and teach them a lesson. This is a perfect example, and it has happened all throughout history. It always turns out the same way. You accomplish two things. You accomplish making yourself feel like you did something. That's the first thing. And if we're being honest, that's the goal, right? You want to feel like you did something and be able to say that you took care of it. And then the second thing you accomplish is nothing. That's right. Now, unfortunately, people like to say that they did something and actually not change anything, because if we're being honest still, this person wasn't acting alone in many cases. They have friends, they've got a circle, a network, a community of people who are probably participating in the same activity. So when something comes out into the daylight that shouldn't be there, somebody has to do something, right? Quote unquote, do something. So they do something, and they rough them up or they beat them down, and then they say they did something and nothing changes, right? So you're making yourself feel a little bit better. You're being able to say that you did something and nothing changes. So this is why it's a bad move. You're just going to get caught in a cycle of abuse. Two wrongs don't make a right. It solves nothing. And you can't do that in daylight. Here's the thing. The same thing that person did, whatever it was, you're doubling it down by going behind somebody's back, going, in the dark of night or whatever you're doing, and giving somebody the beat down, because you can't do that in daylight. There's a reason for that. It's just as wrong as the original thing. So anyhow, the proper course, and I don't want this to be a big preachy video, but I'm saying the proper course that actually helps the community, if that's something you're interested in, if you want to actually live in a happy, healthy community, and I think pretty much everybody does, you have to allow people to get their day in court, so to speak, a proper court. And I don't necessarily mean the superior court of the county, because that's not a proper court in any of my experiences, but sometimes you need a proper circle of people working in the daylight, figuratively, who have the the resources, some resources, and it's not a perfect world. We don't have unlimited budgets to investigate and properly give everybody the best chance they can possibly get, but you can give them better than just some guy showing up because he heard a rumor. All right? Come on, man. You know that that's not right. You know that that's not right. So just put yourself in their shoes. I ask that walk a mile in a man's shoes. Understand that everybody is tempted, and when people are when people cross that line, when they submit to temptation, many times, unfortunately, there is an excuse of drugs or alcohol, and you may not agree with that being an excuse, but this is why it's a big debatable controversy, right? Because you lose your volition. If you're drunk, you lose your inhibitions, you lose your reasoning and your planning, and you are actually literally no longer responsible for your choices, which is why it's such a terrible thing. You're no longer honestly responsible, and human beings can't anticipate everything. You can't just tell somebody, don't drink if you're going to do something bad. That just doesn't work. That's not fair. It doesn't work, man. So I hope all this makes sense. Maybe I'm telling you everything that you already know, but I hate to see people get the shaft. It makes everybody look bad. It harms the community. It solves nothing. And it's just a second crime added to the first one. Be a snitch if you have to. I hate to say it. If it means protecting yourself and your community, give someone an opportunity to explain themselves before a judge. It's the best thing you can do. Reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.